Local stories, local people. We're taking you inside Western Mass news. It's the Even Better Western Mass podcast with Dave Madsen.
Welcome to this week's edition of Even Better Western Mass. Good to have you with us. Each week I sit down with an area newsmaker or someone who's making a difference in Western Mass to give you a chance to hear them in more than just a 15 or 20-second soundbite. My guest this week is a good friend, Danny Eaton. He is the founder and the producing director of the Majestic Theater in West Springfield, providing local theater to all of us here in the Pioneer Valley for more than 20 years right now. I've known Danny for about that long. This week we talk about how the theater got started, what they're doing now, and the vision for the future. Enjoy my conversation with Danny Eaton. Danny, thank you.
Here we are.
Right here.
Hi, Dave.
where it all started. Although when you started here in the mid-'90s, this wasn't here.
This was not here.
No. So let's go back 23 years ago, and the whole concept. I mean, the theater project had been around. Let's start with the theater project that you developed that many years ago.
Yeah, that's probably 25, 26 years ago now, and there was, as much as anything, kind of an outgrowth of friends from and alumni from Hoyle Community College who were involved in the theater in some aspect or another, and I got invited to direct a show up there for the Alumni Association, and that kind of brought us together, and a small group of us, and we said, well, maybe we'll try and keep this going, So we did, through the Alumni Association, we did 3 productions, I think it was, and that was really the beginning of the theater project.
Now, while you were doing this, you were at Williston, right, at that time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Working at Williston, and in the theater there as the production manager, and we had Nancy Coates, who's one of our board members. She was a professor. She's retired now out at Westfield State in the business department. And she provided us with 2 interns for a semester. And we charged them with finding us a space in West Springfield that we could develop as a permanent home. Okay. And so they started searching all over town. They were looking in warehouses and things like that. And one afternoon they happened to be up in the assessor's office, and he brought the 2 of them over to the window, which looks down on the back end of the theater, and he pointed to the old stage door, and he said, well, there was a movie theater there, and he said half of it is still there. And they got a hold of us and came over here, and we found the back half of the movie theater, and I said, perfect,
It was.
And everybody thought I was just like completely out of my mind,
The rest of it was offices, right?
This front had been, I think the movie theater itself closed down in, I don't know, late 70s, early 80s, something like that, and then it got purchased, the building got purchased, and the front half of it converted to commercial office space. So we had 2 offices downstairs and 2 offices upstairs, and then the back half just full of junk.
Do you remember the theater as a young man?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I remember... I was working at Stage West back in the early days over in the Big E grounds, and I think on a night off, must have been a Monday night, I came over here to see the original Rocky. When it was, I think they called it the Paris Cinema then, so it was one of those dollar movie nights, second run theater. So
these old theater houses that were just on their last legs at that point in time.
Yep.
There were a lot of them around here.
Yeah, there were.
Now, have you always been interested in theater? I mean, is this something that you knew you wanted to do from day one, or you just kind of developed into it?
Well, I guess I blame it on my dad, who was a great storyteller. He would spin off these the most fantastic tales. A lot of them had to do with his time during World War II and things like that, you know. So as a kid, I always imagined myself as a storyteller. And to this day, I say, well, that's what I do. I tell stories, but except I tell them on the stage, you know. So I guess that was the sort of progression. When in my last days before I got discharged from the Marines, I was doing a lot of writing. Most of it was short stories, kind of like in the John O'Hara, Ernest Hemingway vein, that kind of thing. And I happened to write a short play. Don't know why it was a play. I have no idea why it was a play. And I just tucked it away. And when I got discharged and started my college career, met a professor and who had just starting a drama program. This was at Hoyle Community, and there hadn't been anything there in the past. And you know, I mentioned to her, well, I've got this play. And she said, well, I'd love to read it. And so, you know, I dug it out, and she said, well, I'll produce it.
No kidding.
So I said, well, that was fantastic. And, you know, mostly as a short story writer, you know, I'd be sending out short stories to publications, and, you know, occasionally you'd land something in a small quarterly or something, but mostly the return mail was all rejection slips, you know, and here's a play that's going to get produced, and I have to say it was a god-awful play. It really was. But, you know, what inspired me was that the feedback was immediate, and every night it was produced, you had more feedback, and you know, never got that kind of feedback from writing short fiction. You know, so that's kind of got me started.
So almost similar to really when a Broadway show, before it goes out to Broadway, it plays all these different cities, and it's always being tweaked.
Always, yeah.
All right, so you've got your theater.
Yes.
What year was that?
Here?
Yeah.
Oh, well, 1995.
95.
Is when we signed the lease for that space.
Yeah.
And, you know, I have to say that the Plotkin brothers owned this property, and they were incredibly supportive of us. They gave us a 5-year lease at no cost for the first 2 years, I think it was, maybe even 3 years. And then it was like $500 a month for the next 3 or 4 years till the end of that first lease period. And we had to raise all the funds to do the renovation.
Because you are a nonprofit.
Yes, we are. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And so we did that, but it took us 2 years.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of sweat equity and things like that. So I had summers off from Williston, so, you know, virtually spent 2 summers here banging nails and lugging lumber and things like that.
So you got the theater open, and that's when I first met you.
Right.
With the Buddy Holly story. Now, how did you pick that as your first production?
Well, I happened to be on a London theater trip with a group of Williston kids the year before. And one of the shows that we saw in London in the West End was the Buddy Holly story. And I was just, that show just kind of boggled my mind, because what I saw was, I mean, of course the music was like, you know, it's right in my wheelhouse for sure. Yeah, right. But there's a huge concert at the end of the show, and there were generations of people like dancing in the aisle. So it'd be like a grandfather and their grandchild.
Yep.
And I said, where in the theater do you see that kind of thing happening? You know, and so I ended up writing to I think the author, Alan James, and telling me, well, I have this theater. We're going to open it in March of '97. I would really love to open the theater with the Buddy Holly story if I can get a license. And so one thing led to another, and heard from the producers, and they gave us a license to produce the play. And it was actually the first time that the show had toured the United States, like the Broadway production, but it was always a big production,
And there was the movie.
And there was a movie, yep, with Gary Busey, and but they were, I think, as much interested to see if the production could work in a smaller house, because it opened up all kinds of opportunities for them, so it wasn't just a big Broadway scale theater.
Yeah.
So. But it was nice, and the producers from London came over to see the show, and Maria Elena Holly flew up from Texas.
I remember that
and,
very well.
Yeah,
she had a great time with all of you guys.
She did.
And it was all local actors.
Yes.
Right. I mean,
Yep.
that first production, it was
That very first production, all local people.
And from what I remember, because I would come in and I would. My son Greg worked on the
Yes,
crew.
he did.
Because he knew Ben and Stacy.
Right.
And Ben played Buddy, and still does.
Stacy played Vi Petty.
Yep. And so I would come on weekends, and I would pick Greg up, and I would always watch the end of the show.
Yeah.
But it was just so much fun. I mean, I got hooked on the theater here from the beginning, because it was crazy.
Yeah.
What was going on here, and I think most nights you were full.
Oh yeah, we were jammed.
So I mean, that was it, when it opened. I said, did you expect it to be that successful early on?
That's interesting. I remember a reporter saying to me one time at that opening, right, that it's like, wow, well, your dream finally came true. You got it made, and there was some truth to that after like 2 years of banging nails and lugging concrete blocks and all that kind of stuff.
A lot of sweat equity.
Yeah. But I did know that, the real challenge, that was just to get the theater open, right?
Yeah.
But the real challenge was going to be keeping the doors open.
Yeah.
So
then that fall, you're looking to your first full season.
First full season, yep. And but I always felt that, and to this day, I feel like this place was just. I don't know. I think it's just kind of meant to be. So nothing extraordinary. It's just like meant to be here and meant to be producing plays. And
I think the other part of it too is, I mean, there was some stuff on the other side of the river that seemingly struggled. Mm-hmm. But I think I'm biased because we've been friends for so long. But you have this knack for picking productions that the people around here just are drawn to.
Well, people say that, and I mean, it's one of the things that, if you were to ask me, well, what's your real job, and I'd say, well, mostly it's like picking these plays that we produce.
Yeah.
And there's truth in that, but. Here's an example. For example, we were talking about the Across the River. There was kind of a notorious production of Hamlet across the river that audiences like bailed out on, just bailed, walked out in the middle of, and things like that. And it was rather a famous production. It got national attention, and if you knew Shakespeare, if you were a student of Shakespeare, that kind of made sense to you. You had to really know that play. It was Hamlet, right? Conversely, we did a production of Hamlet here at the Majestic, and we gave the audience like a guarantee. So I guarantee you that you will not only understand this play, you won't be thrown by the language, but you'll find it entertains you.
Yeah.
And it worked.
Now, through the years, I mean, the productions have run the gamut here.
Yeah.
What, as you look back, was the biggest? Now, I remember when you in the season of La Cage aux Folles, and I'm thinking, my God, that's a big play for a little venue like this. But
Right.
you pulled it off. Was that probably the biggest one you did, or was there
La Cage?
Yeah, La Cage.
Oh, Saigon, I think,
Saigon,
was probably
yeah, Saigon.
the overall the biggest one.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, probably the largest cast, I think, as well. But it's a great challenge, you know, and it's interesting. You know, you have this kind of intimate little space, and you know, I've always said, well, it doesn't matter what play it is that we're doing. We have to kind of fit it into our space so that it makes sense in our space.
Yeah.
You know, whereas you could go see the same play with the same group of actors and the same script and the same lines and all of that in a different theater environment, you know, in a proscenium stage or something, and it's a different experience. You know.
But I think back to, even going back to Buddy, I think that really got the buzz out in Western Massachusetts.
Oh, it
Hey,
did.
there's something really good going on here.
Yeah, it did. It did. That kind of put us on the map.
And it seems to become almost like your trademark production.
Well, it is, you know, it's kind of interesting. We are, you know, so we opened the theater with it in March of '97.
Yep.
Then at the end of our very first season, we brought it back.
Yep.
And then at the end of our 5th season, we brought it back. Then at the end of our 10th season, we brought it back. Then at the end of our 15th season, we brought it back. We didn't bring it back at the end of the 20th.
See, I always thought, too, that it should be the Buddy Holly story had he lived to be this old.
Yeah, I know. The problem now, people to this day are asking us to bring the Buddy Holly story back again, and I'm reluctant to do that. If only because the guys who originally did it, Ben Ashley, Frankie Manzi, and Aaron Porcelli.
That's 23 years later.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, they're they're a little too long-toothed now to make it work.
Well, I think when Ben and Stacy started, they didn't have any kids.
Nope.
And they're both out of college. And
Right.
so a lot of time has passed.
A lot of time has passed, and so the audiences who have seen that show. And sort of clamor to see it again, would be disappointed to not see Ben and not see Frank and not see Aaron, because I'd have to replace them with just kind of younger actors.
It's like a remake of a movie.
Yeah, exactly, and so then I think ultimately they'd be disappointed, and so it's kind of like a no-win.
Yeah.
Which seems like a win-win, but I think ultimately it's like a no-win.
So how do you go about choosing productions for the Majestic? Is there a criteria for it, or is it something that you like, or a combination of all that?
Oh, yeah, a combination. People recommend shows all the time. You know, actors recommend shows all the time, but mostly actors will recommend shows that there's a part in it for them, you know. But sometimes it works. Audience members recommend shows. I just read a ton of stuff, and, you know, agents will send me stuff, and, you know, so it's just a question of tracking things down.
And through the years too, you've attracted some nationally renowned actors here for a number of things. Production I remember very clearly a couple of years back with Louis Black, and he came here to see it.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean the talent that you've drawn here, drawn locally, and you're drawn through Actors Equity and other places around the country.
Right.
Is there a demand that this has got to be a fun place for an actor to come take part in a play?
Well, you know, it is. One of our challenges here, like, in order to get, say, somebody like Louis Black to actually do a show, you know, somebody with a national reputation, is that, you know, because we have such a strong subscriber base, all of our shows have to run at least 6 weeks. Some of them run 7, right? So then you put in 2 or 3 weeks of rehearsal. So you're looking at 2 months, easily, right? Plus, and you know, getting someone with any kind of renown to come out of New York, say, for 2+ months is like, virtually impossible.
Yeah.
So.
You talk about your subscriber base. I mean, you have great community support, not only from the people who come here, the subscribers, to the people who sponsor your productions and the advertisers in your playbill.
Yep. They've been with us for a long time. I mean, Teddy Ebert's a great example. He corralled me after the Buddy Holly story, the original Buddy Holly story, the very first one, the opening production, and said, how can I help you guys? And I said, well, buy an ad in our playbill. And he said, no, I don't want to buy an ad. How can I help you guys?
Yeah.
And he's been a corporate sponsor ever since.
And Teddy and Barbara, they love live theater.
Mm-hmm.
They really do.
Then now they do, because I think it's safe to say that they were not really theater goers until they got involved here. But now they see theater down in Florida. They see theater down at the Cape. Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of your subscribers, I mean, when they first came here, I mean, we were never really theater goers either. Mm-hmm. How many people have become theater goers because of the Majestic?
Yeah. I think that's really one of the things that I take some pride in. I mean, I've always kind of felt, well, if I could take 10 people and I get them in to see, I'll just use the Buddy Holly story. If I can get 10 people to come in and see a production of the Buddy Holly story, I'll get 6 or 7 of them to come back. Oh, yeah. To see another. These are brand new people, brand new theater people, or brand new patrons to the theater. I'll get 6 or 7 to come back, and I'll get 4 of them to become subscribers. And we have kind of grown our audience base like that.
Now, when you started too, the theater was a little smaller than it is now. You didn't have the cafe, so I mean,
didn't have the cafe
through the years. Originally you did your season from September to the beginning of June.
Yep.
But now you're year round.
Now we're year round with some busy summer. Oh my God. I always look forward to September rolling around again, because at least, ostensibly Monday and Tuesday nights are our dark nights.
Yeah.
But in the summer, it's literally 7 days a week.
Did you envision that when you started this up, or did stuff just kind of happen?
Yeah. But part of it is too, is keeping the doors open, keeping the theater on good financial ground, keeping people employed. So that's all part of a responsibility, I think.
It's gone a long way from, hey kids, let's do a play, to...
I know, it's not. It's no longer, let's clean out the barn and put on a show.
As you look to the theater itself, any down the road things you would like to do here, changes you would make, or additions you'd like to make, or anything like that?
Oh, that's hard to say.
Because you are kind of limited by space, right?
We are limited by space, and we kind of maximize. Yeah. We kind of maximize this facility. So it's hard to say. I think we just keep going. I think we want to get into the bus tours a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. You've done some of that through MGM,
yeah,
right?
We have. We did some over the summer, and part of our contract with MGM in that original agreement is for every one of our shows, there's an MGM day. It's a Saturday matinee, and that's always a bus tour kind of thing,
And that's bringing people in from out of the area in many instances, too.
Yeah.
And I suppose, too, the actors who work here, the people who come here to plays, a lot of your success is word of mouth. It has been through the years, especially early on, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So we're here in January. As we look to this, and we look ahead to the rest of this season, and I think have you announced for next season yet, or
not yet?
You're still working on that?
I'm working on that. Yeah.
But let's talk about the rest of this season, because you've got a lot going on. Well, through Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, and the like. So.
Oh yeah, we got Valentine's concert with Freddie Marion. We got St. Patrick's Week with Bo Fitz and the Yank Celt and Craig Eastman, and a really terrific show that I'm very much looking forward to. Father Misgivings, Dave Kane out of Rhode Island, talks about growing up Catholic and Irish,
Yeah.
So that's literally on St. Patrick's Day this year. The PVPA kids are doing a concert here. Oh gosh, what else is happening? There's some extra stuff. But yeah, a lot of things happening. Plus the regular shows. We started rehearsal just the other night for Death Trap, which opens in January.
Yep.
That's a show I've been trying to get a license for probably 5 years. And some producer had it optioned for Broadway. Never put the show together, but kept renewing his option, and so I couldn't get a license for it, which is like I was tearing my hair out every year. But finally did get a license, and so that's in the works. And then a new play called The Pitch, which was written by Stan Freeman, who, I don't know if you know Stan. He's a
writer. Yeah.
He's a newspaper guy.
Yeah.
He's a retired newspaper man, and it's a great story about a minor league pitcher who gets called up to the majors. Finally, he's a lefty, can throw a fastball. He gets inserted, and it's a period piece back in the 60s. He gets inserted into a ball game at Yankee Stadium. And in the sixth inning, in the first batter he has to face is Carl Yastrzemski. And the catcher, who's unidentified, but who doesn't like rookies, keeps calling for him to throw a curveball, and he doesn't have a curveball. And the catcher he tries to shake him off because he wants to throw a fastball, and catcher keeps insisting on the curveball, and so he tries a curveball, and Yastrzemski whacks it, and it runs out to the wall, and the runners score. And so Ralph Houk comes out and yanks him. So the guy, his career was one pitch in the major leagues, and that was it.
Fun.
And that's the pitch.
You don't have to be a baseball fan to like.
You don't have to be a baseball fan, but I think that's a great story.
And then you close the season.
Oh my God, 9 to 5.
9 to 5.
The great Dolly Parton show. So.
And great music and great fun.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you have a play that you like, one of your favorites that you've had here through the 23 years?
Oh my gosh, there've been so many. It's really hard to say.
Yeah.
I can't pin on that.
Well, then you've done. That's the other part I wanted to get to too. The original productions you've done, plays that you've written, have all been on this stage, and there are a number of them.
Well, there are several. Yeah.
And you've got one in the works.
Got one in the works, maybe for next year. We don't know. Called Betty and the Patch, and it's inspired by it's kind of a locally famous restaurant that used to be. Not many people know of it. Betty's in the Patch out in Agawam.
I remember going there.
You do?
Oh gosh,
Yeah.
I remember we brought the kids, and it was eating at home.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh yeah, many times.
People have great memory. In a sense, it's kind of like the old Majestic movie house.
Yeah.
I mean, I get people all the time, they're saying, "Oh man, I came here when I was a kid. Every Saturday I was here. I spend the entire day here at the Majestic." So, there was just like this fondness for the Majestic Theater, which has served us well.
Sure.
Even though we're not a movie house anymore, but Betty's in the Patch was like this. There's this tremendous fondness for just the memory of it,
Well, I think in so many things. I think that with a lot of the plays that you've had here, a lot of it goes back to that nostalgia. That from a subscriber point of view, coming here, it's like. It seems like these musicals with the music from the 50s and the 60s are really very, very successful. People really like those plays.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And there aren't that many of them, though, so they're kind of hard to find, right? Although you've picked some unique ones that I think a lot of people have never heard of. Where they're just fun shows.
Yeah.
What I wanted to ask you too is with actors, and people who come here from all around, are they intimidated by the closeness of the audience? Because the audience is almost part of the show.
And I generally, if it's at all possible, as a director, I try and include the audience in the show.
Yeah.
So, like I'll use a lot of house entrances, or I'll use a lot of direct address.
Yeah.
when it's right to
Or like
do
the buddy story, you pick someone as a prize winner from the audience and stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but they're not. You get out on that stage, and it's an interesting dynamic. If you're a performer, you kind of feel embraced, because the stage wraps around, the audience wraps around the stage a little bit.
Yeah.
But also up above in the balcony, the balcony wraps around you too. So, I think as a performer, you kind of really feel embraced out on that stage.
And as an audience too, that you are part of it, and I think that's the other thing that makes the theater and what you do here unique. It's hard not to get involved.
Yes.
And it's just a fun time. So as you look ahead, you've been doing this for a long time. Are you having as much fun as you did day one?
Yeah.
And that's the key.
It's more work, but it's a calling. I tell people, it's not a job; it's a calling.
Yeah.
So.
It is. It's just more than just putting on plays.
Right.
And how it's grown with the cafe. When people go, it used to be, I think people would come here, they'd go to a play, and they'd maybe go out to eat, but they come here first, and now they make an evening of it.
Right, they do.
Yeah.
This cafe is jammed before every show.
Yeah.
We'll have people. We got an 8:00 curtain. We'll have people showing up at 6:45 to get in here and stake out a seat and
sure,
get soup and a sandwich or what have you.
And you're always looking for new subscribers.
Always.
New folks to come in.
Yeah.
And exciting things for years to come. It's hard to believe that you're coming up on a 25th anniversary now too.
Coming up, yeah.
Time flies.
It does. It does indeed.
But time flies when you're having fun.
Time flies when you're having fun. Speaking of the audience, there's an interesting dynamic too. I remember back in the old Stage West days, in the 1970s.
Yeah.
One of the big concerns then was the graying of the audience. So it was the same argument you're having then that we've heard all the way through the years, even up to today. And to some extent, there's truth. The audiences tend to gray.
Right.
But what I've discovered, my theory about all of that is, what happens, and I've seen it here at the Majestic over 20 plus years now. So we don't cater or try and gear productions toward 20-somethings. We do get some, but most of our audiences are adult audiences, and found that our new subscribers that come in, tend to be, say, late 30s. Mid 30s. So their careers are established. Their families are established. They're in their house and things like that, and they've got a little disposable income, and the kids are old enough to either be by themselves or be with a babysitter, and so they come out, and so they stay with us over 20 plus years and turn gray.
Yeah.
So there's this constant recycling, and so that whole notion of the graying of the audience, which other theaters were so freaked out about, and they tried to do counter programming to balance that. They tried different packages, and here we are. We're just doing the very traditional 5-play subscription package for an audience, which
it's also
works.
It's also very reasonable.
Oh, yeah.
As you look at that too, why do you think the Majestic has succeeded and done so well, whereas other venues around here have struggled?
There's an ambiance here. There's a strong customer service. so that when people first come in, our first point of contact is the box office.
Right.
Right? And then it's somebody behind the bar in the cafe.
Yeah.
And so...
And people have been here with you for a long, long time.
Yeah. And so I think before people can go through those doors and see the stage and see the whatever set is up there, they're almost predisposed to be in a welcoming mood, which just only serves the play that they're going to see well and the actors that they're going to see.
Sure, people coming in to see old friends that they see 5 times a year, if not more. But I think the other part too that I was remiss to mention, I should have mentioned it before, was your children's theater. That you're also developing a core audience through those theaters. I mean, our grandkids have come and have just had the greatest time.
Right.
And picking those plays over the course of a summer.
Right.
And that's kind of, I know you don't look at it that way, but it's helping to build an audience for the
I certainly look, I do look at it that way, just, again, it's a storytelling mode too, and then just, what's great about the children's theater is like oftentimes the little kids, 5-6-year-olds which is like a perfect, age for our children's theater. They'll come in a costume or something that's related to the play on the stage, Aladdin or Snow White or whatever, what have you, and then when the play's over, they'll stream out here to meet the actors and get autographs and things like that. And it all goes toward, for me, that sort of storytelling. This kind of thing. So even if those little kids aren't going to be future actors or aren't going to be, they might be future audience members, but just the idea and the notion of the joy that you can have from being involved in a story or even telling a story or even inventing a story of your own.
Yeah, instead of sitting in front of a TV and just watching it.
Exactly.
I mean, and I think that's the first exposure. It's like, my goodness, there's people here I can almost touch.
Yep.
And in some instances, they can when they're out here afterwards.
They do, yeah.
And that must be fun to watch the kids, because
that's especially fun. I so enjoy that at the end of the play, just watching the lineup and all the little kids coming over and talking to the actors and. Yeah.
But what a great opportunity, too, because there's not that, I mean, there was for a time around here, I can remember going to Mount Holyoke College and things like that, but a venue for kids to go to see this stuff, because, again, there's something so different than, these kids are so fixated on television and video games and everything else. Now, all of a sudden, you're in a theater, and there's live music and live people pulling this off.
Well, that's the beauty, that's the uniqueness of theater. I mean, and not just for kids, young kids that go into children's theater plays, but for grown-ups going to see whatever's on stage now, it's because it's not television, it's not the movies, it has that uniqueness, that sort of one-on-one experience that you don't get anywhere else.
And that's it. That's probably a good place to say thank you, Danny Eaton.
Thank you, Dave.
It's been fun. I've learned a lot. I mean, I've known you for a long, long time, and I've learned a lot today about you and the theater and everything else. It's been fun, and we continue. Now that I'm retired, continue to look forward to doing more things. Thanks, Danny.
All right, my pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed this week's edition of Even Better Western Mass and my talk with Danny Eaton of the Majestic Theater. I'd like to know what you think about our podcast, and if you have any ideas for guests you'd like to see down the road, send them to me at dave.madsen@westernmassnews.com. My guest next week is political consultant Paul Robbins. We talk about the political climate in the country, the upcoming presidential election, and local voting here in Western Massachusetts. There'll be quite a few races in 2020. That's next week on Even Better Western Mass. I'm Dave Madsen. Thanks for watching and for listening.